They thought you were just a background noise, a supporting role in their little drama, someone to fill the silence between their lies, someone disposable. But life has a wicked sense of irony, doesn't it? Because the side character they thought they were playing turned out to be the main character rewriting the entire story. You weren't a subplot, you were the plot twist. The moment everything changed, they underestimated you because you were quiet. You listened more than you spoke. You moved differently, calm, collected, always observing. They thought your silence meant weakness, not realizing it was strategy. You were studying every move, every word, every hidden motive behind their smile. You weren't lost in their story, you were waiting to end it on your terms. And when you finally did, it wasn't with chaos or revenge, it was with silence. A perfectly executed exit that left their whole script collapsing behind you. They didn't even see it coming. You left, and the story lost its structure. Suddenly the villain had no purpose, the drama had no audience, the lies had no weight, because the person they took for granted was the one holding the entire narrative together. They built the story around themselves, their ego, their control, their illusions. But you were the gravity, the quiet force holding everything in orbit. When you pulled away, their world spun out of control. They called you selfish, dramatic, cold. But deep down, they knew you were simply done being an accessory in someone else's illusion. You reclaimed your title, the protagonist. Every villain needs a hero to rise against, and you stopped playing that role. You didn't argue, you didn't explain, you just vanished. And that disappearance became the climax, the twist that flipped the genre from tragedy to legend. You didn't seek revenge, you became the reminder, the one that keeps them awake at night wondering, what if I hadn't underestimated them? They thought the story ended when you walked away. But the truth, that's when it began. Because your glow up, your silence, your evolution that became the sequel they never got invited to. While they recycled old habits, you rewrote your destiny. You turned your scars into chapters, your pain into prose. And now, every move you make feels cinematic, composed, deliberate, unstoppable. They used to laugh at you behind closed doors. Now, they whisper your name with regret. You became the legend in their cautionary tale, the one who taught them not to play with people who know their worth. Because you weren't a victim, you were the lesson, the twist they didn't predict, the one who walked out of the flames without a single burn mark. They tried to frame you as fragile, emotional, naive, but every label they threw became the very reason you grew stronger. You let them think they were in control because you knew control isn't loud. It's quiet. It's patience. It's knowing when to play small until the timing is perfect to take the whole board. Now, you don't chase recognition, you embody it. You don't crave validation, you command it. You don't explain your story, you let your piece narrate it. And that piece? It's louder than any revenge could ever be. They can't compete with the way you move, unbothered, untouchable, unfazed. Because real main characters don't fight for attention. They become the plot. They're haunted by you now, not because you hurt them, but because you outgrew them. You became what they could never be aware, free, self-sufficient. And nothing eats an insecure soul faster than watching the person they dismissed become everything they secretly wanted to be. You didn't need applause, you just needed clarity. And once you got that, their entire illusion collapsed under its own lies. They're still stuck in the same scene, replaying the same act with the same fake audience. Meanwhile, you've changed genres entirely, from heartbreak to success, from silence to dominance. You stopped proving, you started living, and your life became the cinematic masterpiece they'll forever wish they starred in. Because in the end, they were just filler dialogue, temporary noise in your eternal monologue. And you were the twist they'll never forget, the name they can't stop mentioning, The moment that rewrote their entire story. The side character who became the main character, and then left the script burning behind them. You weren't the extra, you were the ending. They thought you were temporary, just another passing phase in their overinflated world, a convenient presence, a quiet background character meant to orbit around their chaos. But time has a cruel way of revealing who the story truly belongs to. Because when they look back, they realized every powerful moment, every real spark of truth, every turning point had your fingerprints all over it. You weren't a background presence, you were the catalyst, the reason the whole thing ever felt real in the first place. And that's what kills them now, the realization that their spotlight was borrowed light. It wasn't theirs to begin with, it was a reflection of your fire. You gave them relevance, depth, a script that almost meant something. When you left, it all went dark. Their voice, their image, their so-called power, all of it suddenly felt hollow. Because the light they mistook for their own was always coming from you. They thought you'd crumble without them, that you'd beg for a scene, that your silence would break you. Instead, your silence became their undoing. It became the echo in their own head, the proof that your presence wasn't fragile, it was the foundation. You disappeared, and suddenly, the walls started talking, the stage felt empty, and the audience began asking questions they didn't want to answer. They tried to paint you as replaceable. They said you were dramatic, sensitive, easy to forget. But tell me, why can't they stop talking about you then? Why does your name still come up like a curse they can't shake off? Because the truth is, you became the measurement, the standard of what they lost. They compare everyone to you, but no one comes close. You set a tone they can't replicate. You made existence after you feel like a downgrade. Now they act unbothered, but behind that fake calm, there's panic, because they know you've mastered the one thing they never could: detachment. You let go, truly let go. You didn't just walk away physically, you removed your energy, your care, your curiosity. You took back your power quietly, and that's what drives them insane. They can't fight what they can't reach. They can't fix what's already forgotten them. They thought the story would always revolve around them, that no matter how badly they treated you, you'd circle back like gravity. But you defied their laws. You created your own universe, one where you don't chase, you don't explain, you don't entertain. And now they're left orbiting emptiness, still pretending they're the center, while you've already moved galaxies away. What they never realized is that your peace was your rebellion. You didn't explode, you didn't retaliate, you simply outgrew. And that quiet evolution hurt them more than any vengeance ever could. Because vengeance ends a story, growth rewrites it. You didn't destroy them, you forced them to face themselves. And that's a punishment no one escapes. Now they tell stories about you, twisted, exaggerated, incomplete. They rewrite the past to feel less guilty, less small. But deep down, they know every narrative they create is just a mask to cover the simple truth. They lost someone rare, they had a real one. And they traded that for control, for ego, for the illusion of power. You gave them lessons they never asked for, but desperately needed. You showed them that kindness has limits, that love without respect is a curse, and that silence, real, unbothered silence, is the loudest form of closure. They used to mock your calmness, but now they fear it, because that calmness means they no longer matter. It means the game is over. They thought the end would come with shouting, tears, drama. But it came quietly just one day. You stopped showing up. No announcement. No final words. Just absence. And that absence became louder than any confrontation could ever be. They used to think they held the power. Now they see power is not in control, it's in indifference. And the best part? You didn't need to prove them wrong. You simply became everything they said you couldn't be. You didn't react, you evolved. You didn't beg, you built. You didn't defend, you distanced. And somehow, that shook their world more than any retaliation ever could. Now, when they see you, they flinch at your calmness. It unnerves them. It reminds them of what they lost and who they created in the process. Because they didn't just lose a person, they lost the only one who ever saw them clearly, who ever believed in their potential before the lies took over. You were the light, and they dimmed it out of arrogance. But the light didn't die, it just stopped shining on them. They thought they could replace you, but replacements only fill space, they don't fill presence. You left something they can't replicate: authenticity. That's the curse of meeting someone real. Once you've experienced truth, everything fake feels unbearable. That's why they still linger, still check, still wonder. You're gone, but the ghost of your energy still haunts their routine. They never imagined you would find peace without them. Your calm wasn't supposed to exist. Your silence wasn't supposed to be this powerful. In their mind, your absence was meant to be punishment for you. They thought you'd come crawling back, restless, lonely, and desperate for connection. But instead, you disappeared into serenity. You vanished into peace. And that peace wasn't part of their plan. Because peace means you don't need them anymore. Peace means the chaos they created lost its effect. Peace means they no longer control your emotions, and that terrifies them. They thought you'd break in no contact. They thought silence would be your undoing. But the silence became your sanctuary. The same quiet they used to manipulate became your protection. You found yourself in the space they tried to weaponize against you, and that's the moment the tables turned. They expected you to reach out, to explain, to argue, to beg for closure. That's the script they rehearsed in their head, but you went off script. You didn't reply, you didn't check, you didn't look back. You just existed peacefully, deliberately, unbothered. That stillness became your rebellion. They hate that you don't care anymore. They hate that your peace isn't performative. They hate that your joy doesn't include them. Because to them, your happiness without them is proof of how irrelevant they've become. They can't handle the idea that they no longer affect your state of mind. They used to be the storm, now they're just background noise. You, on the other hand, became the calm after everything. They were counting on you to chase clarity. They needed you to need them for validation, for answers, for meaning. But you outgrew the entire need. You stopped chasing understanding and started embracing indifference. You realized peace doesn't require closure, it requires distance. And the more distance you created, the more they unraveled. Because distance reveals everything: who needed you, who used you, who feared losing control over you. They saw your silence not as avoidance, but as evolution. They realized they were never your peace, they were the reason you had to seek it. They scroll through your life now, pretending not to care, but they watch. They always watch. They see your laughter, your stillness, your glow, and it burns. Because that glow used to belong to them. They thought they dimmed it, but you reignited it alone, without permission, without apology. That's what hurts them most, that you found peace without them, and it looks better than anything you ever had with them. They can't stand that their absence improved you. They can't stand that you look lighter, freer, happier, all the things they swore you'd never be again. You became the evidence that healing doesn't need closure, it needs courage. That moving on doesn't require words, only will. They made your peace the enemy, because your peace reminds them of everything they lost and everything you gained. Now, they call you distant, detached, emotionless, but they don't understand that peace isn't apathy, it's strength. It's the ability to not react, not explain, not perform. It's learning that silence can't be manipulated and calm can't be guilt-tripped. You didn't block them out of hate, you blocked them out of necessity. You didn't stay silent out of ego, you stayed silent out of wisdom. You didn't walk away to win, you walked away to breathe. And now, every breath you take without their chaos feels like victory. They thought they were the center of your world, but you showed them your world is far bigger than their drama. You replaced overthinking with peace and arguments with detachment. You stopped participating in your own misery and started curating your own happiness. They hate that you mastered detachment, because people who rely on chaos fear calm souls. They can't manipulate peace. They can't provoke stillness. They can't control someone who's learned how to be alone and enjoy it. Now, your silence is their punishment. Your peace is their nightmare. They keep waiting for a reaction, a crack, a sign that you still care, but all they get is stillness. And stillness scares them because it means you've let go completely. They thought they had power over you, but power fades when the audience stops clapping. You stop performing, and suddenly, their script fell apart. They realized too late the show was never about them. You were the story all along. So now they talk about you pretending to be unbothered, trying to rewrite the narrative. But behind every dismissive word, there's envy. Behind every joke, there's pain. Because they see it now. You didn't just survive the silence, you thrived in it. Your peace became the one thing they can't touch, can't understand, and can't forget. It's the proof that they lost their hold on you forever. You don't hate them, you don't forgive them, you don't think of them, you simply don't need them. And that's what they can't stand, the realization that their chaos no longer echoes in your mind. You're free, quietly, beautifully, completely free. They wanted you broken, you became balanced. They wanted you lost, you found yourself. They wanted control, you found peace. And that peace was never part of their plan. They can't stand it that the same silence they once mocked now defines your power. They used to say, "You've changed." But what they really mean is, you stopped entertaining their chaos. You stopped responding to manipulation disguised as emotion. You stopped breaking yourself just to keep peace that was never real in the first place. Your peace was rebellion in disguise, calm, strategic, deliberate. It wasn't a surrender, it was a declaration. They never thought you'd become someone who smiles without them. They assumed your happiness was dependent on their validation. But when you walked away, you discovered something greater: self-control. You stopped needing closure from people who never deserved access to your peace. They hate it because now they realize the peace they tried to destroy was never theirs to own. They try to tell others you've changed for the worse, that you're cold, that you don't care, but they don't tell them why. They don't say how they drained you, tested you, and left you hollow until you decided you were done being their emotional experiment. Your coldness wasn't born overnight, it was forged in betrayal, refined in silence, and polished by indifference. Now, they see your glow and call it arrogance. They see your boundaries and call them walls. They see your distance and call it pride. But you know the truth: peace looks threatening to those who live in chaos. Your silence speaks a language they'll never understand, one written in healing, spoken in self-respect, and lived through calm defiance. They scroll through your life pretending to be indifferent, but their curiosity betrays them. Every glimpse of your joy feels like an open wound. Every smile reminds them that they don't matter anymore. Every peaceful post, every subtle laugh, every quiet day of yours screams louder than any argument you could have made. You didn't need revenge, your peace is revenge. Because nothing stings more than watching someone you underestimated rise without needing to announce it. They wanted you to crash, to fold, to self-destruct, but instead you rebuilt in silence. You didn't seek applause, you sought alignment. You didn't chase people, you chased clarity, and that clarity turned you into someone untouchable. They used to be the loudest part of your story. Now, they're just background noise, faded, irrelevant, distant. Your life no longer revolves around proving them wrong, it simply moves on without them. And that's the cruelest truth for people who crave attention. Being forgotten hurts more than being hated. Their guilt keeps them awake. They replay the moments, the things they said, the games they played, and for what? To realize you were the only genuine one? To realize they destroyed something pure out of ego? Now, they're haunted by what-ifs, trapped in the echo of their own pride. They could have had peace with you, but they chose to make you their target. Now, they're left alone with the aftermath and your absence. Every day, they try to convince themselves they don't care. But every time they hear your name, every time they see someone smile like you did, that lie cracks. They pretend they're over it. But the truth? You became the one lesson they'll never outgrow, the one that taught them you can't destroy someone who has mastered detachment. And that's the beauty of your evolution. You didn't become heartless. You became immune. You didn't become distant. You became selective. You learned that peace doesn't require explanations, and silence doesn't need validation. You learned that happiness without revenge is the most painful revenge of all. Now, they sit with their guilt while you sit with your calm. Their world revolves around what they lost. Yours expands with every new sunrise. They're still talking about what happened. You're too busy living what's next. That's the difference between those who stay stuck in the past and those who build peace out of it. They can't understand it, how you walk so lightly after all the damage. They thought you'd crumble, but you stood taller. You didn't fight their fire with fire. You drowned it in silence. And now, that silence echoes like a roar in their mind. They thought you were naive, harmless, predictable, easy to read. They saw your kindness and mistook it for softness, your silence for weakness. They thought you were playing checkers while they were playing chess. They never realized you designed the board they were standing on. You let them believe it. You smiled when they mocked you. You nodded when they lied. Because sometimes the best move is the one no one sees coming. They called you innocent. They called you blind. But what they didn't see was the calculation behind your stillness. The way you watched, learned, and filed every betrayal like evidence in a case you were never planning to argue. You didn't plot revenge. You simply stopped participating in their illusion. And when the time came, you didn't strike, you vanished. You left them to play their own game with no opponent left to manipulate. That was your genius. You didn't need to destroy them. You let their ego do the work. They kept making moves, and every move led them deeper into the trap they built for you. You were the calm in the chaos, the one who understood that power isn't loud, it's patient. You let them celebrate victories that didn't exist. You let them laugh at a version of you that was never real. And when the mask dropped, so did their confidence. Now they sit in confusion, wondering how you outplayed them without even trying. They replay conversations, searching for clues. They remember your quiet nods, your simple, okay, your polite smile, and realize too late that you were agreeing to their downfall. They thought you'd panic. They thought you'd beg. But you did nothing, and that's what terrified them. Because nothing is harder to predict than someone who no longer needs the game. Your silence was your move. Your indifference was your weapon. And when you walked away, everything they built on your name began to collapse. They didn't lose to your anger, they lost to your peace. They called you too kind to fight back. But kindness is not weakness, it's camouflage. And you wore it perfectly until the moment they exposed themselves. Now they realized they were never the players. They were the pieces. You never shouted. You never argued. You let their actions define them while yours rewrote you. You played the long game, not for power, not for revenge, but for freedom. Because true victory isn't winning, it's walking away untouchable. Now, when your name comes up, they look uneasy. They know they underestimated the wrong person. They know the naive one outsmarted them with patience sharper than any blade. They know the evil they tried to feed you was the mirror that exposed theirs. And that's the cruel beauty of it, isn't it? You didn't have to become cruel to beat them, you just had to become aware. Awareness is a silent assassin. It kills illusions without spilling blood. And you mastered it with a smile. They tell people you changed, but the truth is, you simply stopped pretending not to see. You stopped giving warnings. You stopped explaining. You stopped forgiving the same mistakes. And that shift, that quiet decision, ended the entire game. Now they sit with the consequences, pretending not to care. But every time they see you thriving, it burns. Because they didn't just lose you, they lost the narrative. And there's no recovery from that. You became the riddle they can't solve. Too calm to provoke, too smart to control, too detached to manipulate. You don't even need to prove them wrong anymore, they do it themselves, every time they open their mouths. And that's what makes your game pure evil. It wasn't revenge that made you powerful. It was restraint. It was the ability to see everything, understand everything, and still choose silence. Because silence, when deliberate, is the loudest checkmate of all. Now, when they remember you, it's not with laughter, it's with tension, because they finally understand the smile you gave them at the end wasn't forgiveness. It was farewell. And that farewell, it was the final move. So yes, they thought you were naive, but you were studying them the entire time. And when the curtains fell, when the dust settled, they realized the truth too late. You weren't naive. You were merciful. And mercy was the only kindness they ever got from you. They still whisper about you, you know, late at night, when guilt keeps them awake. Your name comes crawling back into their heads like a ghost that won't stay buried. They remember how you smiled when they lied, how you walked away when they expected chaos. And that's what drives them insane. You never gave them the reaction they rehearsed for. They built entire conversations in their minds, prepared for your anger, ready for your breakdown. But you never showed up to play the role they assigned you. You simply disappeared, leaving them trapped in the performance they created. Now every word they speak echoes back at them hollow, meaningless, rehearsed. They thought they could define you, but you rewrote the definition. They thought they could corner you, but you learned to live without walls. That's the thing about underestimating people. It's never the loud ones you should fear. It's the quiet ones who learn while you talk. You never needed revenge. You became it. Your success, your peace, your detachment that was the aftermath they never calculated for. You became everything they said you couldn't be, and you did it without needing their applause. They played for control. You played for freedom. That's why you won. You see, naive people are dangerous not because they're ignorant, but because they evolve. They love deeply. They trust completely. But once betrayed, they transform with terrifying precision. They remember, they adapt, and they move like smoke, untouchable, unpredictable, unforgettable. That's you, the evolution they never saw coming. Now every victory you have burns them from the inside out. Every time someone praises you, they choke on regret. Because once upon a time they could have stood beside you, but they chose to stand against you. And the view from that side is ugly, isn't it? They call you cold now, detached, unbothered. They don't realize it's not coldness, it's clarity. You've simply outgrown their chaos. You learned that peace is the loudest statement a survivor can make. And that's why your silence terrifies them. Because silence means closure. Silence means no more chances, no more access, no more explanations. And they know once you go quiet, there's no return. They watch you now thriving, glowing, dangerous in your composure. They tell people you changed, but really, you just stopped giving energy to unworthy souls. You stopped negotiating your worth with people who couldn't even keep their word. You stopped letting their noise define your narrative. And now, they envy what they tried to destroy. They envy your calm, your balance, your grace. They envy the way you no longer need validation, not from them, not from anyone. That's the cruelest twist of all. You became everything they wanted to break. You didn't ruin them. They ruined themselves trying to ruin you. You didn't expose them. They exposed themselves trying to manipulate you. You didn't burn bridges, you just stopped walking their way. And the moment you did, the path behind you collapsed under the weight of their lies. Now they talk about karma as if it's some mystical force chasing them. But karma didn't come knocking, it was already there, wearing your face. You were the lesson they prayed never to learn. And every time they think of you, that lesson stings a little more. They once thought you were naive, but now they realize you were observant, dangerously so. You saw everything. You said nothing. You let them think they were in control. And that patience, that silence, that was your purest form of power. Now, as you stand on the other side, calm, composed, untouchable, they're still busy untangling the mess they made trying to trap you. That's the irony, they were playing a game, but you were writing the ending. And when you walked away, you didn't just end the story, you became the legend. So let them call you cold. Let them call you heartless. Because they'll never understand that heartlessness is just what happens when a kind heart finally learns self-respect. They wanted a fool instead. They created a mastermind. And the game they started, it ended with your silence and their defeat. In the end, you didn't win by fighting, you won by rising. You didn't conquer by chaos, you conquered by clarity. And now, as they look at you with awe and fear, they finally understand. You were never naive. You were just patient enough to let their arrogance destroy itself. That's the final move, the quiet, elegant checkmate. You smiled. You left, you never looked back. And now every time they remember you, they don't see weakness. They see the one who beat them at their own bloody game. They planned every scene like a movie, didn't they? Every word rehearsed, every tear strategic, every argument designed to make you break character. They wanted chaos, they wanted you to explode, to defend yourself, to fall into the same emotional traps they set. But instead, you did the one thing they never expected. You didn't give a damn. You stayed quiet, you stayed calm, and that silence burned louder than any reaction ever could. They had imagined the perfect performance, their betrayal, your breakdown, their victory speech. But the problem with manipulators is they think they know the script better than the writer. You rewrote it with a single act of indifference. You gave them nothing, no tears, no outburst, no validation. Just a blank page where they expected drama. And that's what destroyed them. Because your peace was never part of their plan. They fed off your attention, your energy, your emotion. Without it, they're left talking to themselves, screaming into an empty stage, hoping you'd come back and play your part again. But you've retired from that theater. You've seen through the act, and the performance no longer entertains you. They keep replaying the moment they realized you didn't care. It wasn't loud or cruel. It was quiet, peaceful. You didn't fight back, didn't justify, didn't explain. You just walked away with that dangerous kind of calm that only comes from someone who's finally done. That silence hit harder than any insult ever could. They were addicted to your reaction and you starved them. You took away the control they once had. Because when you stop reacting, you start reclaiming power. And now, every time they try to provoke you, it backfires. Their chaos collapses in on itself. They've become victims of their own performance, trapped in the noise they created. They gossip about you now, trying to drag your name through dirt that no longer touches you. They call you heartless, distant, unbothered. But deep down, they know what it really is: strength. They know they can't reach you anymore, can't manipulate you, can't move you. They're furious that you've evolved beyond their reach. You became unpredictable the moment you chose peace over conflict. That's what makes them nervous. You no longer react, you no longer explain, you no longer play the fool. They can't study your silence, can't decode your calm. You've turned stillness into a weapon, serenity into power. That's the kind of control they'll never understand. They talk about how you've changed, but what really changed was your tolerance. You no longer feed what drains you. You no longer defend what you didn't destroy. You realize that the best revenge isn't anger, it's distance, the kind of distance that leaves them shouting into the void while you move in silence. And now, they feel it, the emptiness, the silence that echoes louder than their lies, the absence of your presence that used to keep them relevant. Every attempt to get under your skin only reminds them how thick it's grown. Every scheme they design crumbles before it even starts, because they forgot the game doesn't work once the player stops playing. So they sit in their own drama now, drowning in the noise they created, haunted by the realization that you never cared enough to respond. That's what kills them, not your anger, but your indifference. They wanted to hurt your heart, but you made them realize they were never close enough to touch it. They wanted a war. You gave them silence. They wanted tears. You gave them peace. They wanted validation. You gave them distance. That's how you win without fighting, by refusing to play the part they wrote for you. You let them perform their chaos while you stayed unmoved, untouchable, unbothered. Because here's the truth. Peace is not weakness. It's power. The kind of power that comes from knowing you don't owe anyone a reaction. You owe yourself silence. You owe yourself freedom. You owe yourself the satisfaction of watching them destroy themselves trying to get your attention. And that's exactly what's happening now. They're burning their own energy trying to ignite yours. Every new stunt, every rumor, every desperate attempt to provoke you only makes them look smaller. You've become the mirror they can't stand to face, the reflection of everything they lost trying to play with your peace. You didn't have to say a word. Your silence said everything. It said, I'm done. It said, you don't deserve my time. It said, you can keep your chaos, I found my calm. And that silence became the loudest revenge of all. Now they live in the aftermath of their own performance, exhausted, confused, irrelevant, while you're untouchable, you're free, you're at peace. And that peace, that radiant, terrifying peace, will forever haunt them more than your anger ever could. Because nothing drives a manipulator crazier than realizing they no longer have control over your emotions. You stopped playing, and the game died right there. That's the real ending, not with explosions, not with revenge, but with quiet victory. The kind that leaves them whispering your name, wondering how they lost control so completely. You didn't just win, you transcended. You left the drama to the actors, and you became the audience, watching the chaos unfold from a distance. Calm, collected, dangerous. And that's when they finally understood you were never meant to react. You were meant to rise. They thought silence meant defeat, that your calm was confusion. But silence is never weakness when it comes from someone who's seen everything and decided it wasn't worth a word. You weren't lost. You were done. You weren't quiet because you had nothing to say. You were quiet because you realized nothing left to say would matter. And that realization was the most dangerous thing about you. They still wait for a reaction, some kind of proof that they got to you. They throw stones, tell stories, create scenes, anything to make you flinch, but you don't. Because once you've learned to control your peace, their chaos becomes nothing but background noise. It hums, it buzzes, but it never reaches you. You became the stillness that drives them mad. You see, drama addicts don't know how to survive without conflict. They need it the way lungs need air. And when you took that away from them, you became their suffocation. Every calm breath you take is a reminder that you can live without them, but they can't live without your attention. That's the real tragedy. They can't understand how you sleep at night after walking away from their storm. But what they'll never know is you've never slept better. Peace hits differently when you've earned it. When you've crawled through manipulation, survived betrayal, and finally found silence, it feels like heaven in your chest. And they can't stand it. Their new obsession is trying to figure out what's going on in your mind. They replay every moment, every word, searching for cracks that aren't there. But you left nothing behind, not a clue, not a thread, not a trace. You mastered the art of disappearing with dignity. They see your absence everywhere, and that's what haunts them most. They call you heartless now. They say you changed, but really you just outgrew the version of yourself that tolerated disrespect. You no longer bend to keep peace with people who thrive on chaos. That's not cruelty, that's survival. And survival in your hands looks like power. They thought ignoring them would make you lonely. Instead, it made you lethal. You've learned to build your own company out of solitude. You've found peace in your own voice. You don't need validation anymore. You've become your own witness, your own proof, your own reason. That's the kind of independence they'll never know. They gossip, hoping to drag you back into their story. But you've moved on to a different book, one where they don't even exist. They shout your name into empty rooms, trying to keep you relevant to their guilt. But silence is louder than their noise. It echoes longer. It cuts deeper. Now, every time they hear about your success, it stings. Because you weren't supposed to rise. You were supposed to break. They designed your fall like a masterpiece, but the twist was, you learned to fly. You turned every betrayal into fuel, every loss into direction. That's what they'll never forgive you for, that you made their cruelty meaningless. They'll tell people you were fake, or lucky, or cold. But that's just their way of avoiding accountability. Deep down, they know they lost to someone who refused to play their game. And that's what burns them, not your success, not your strength, but your indifference to their downfall. You didn't need them to lose. You just needed to stop caring.